This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today that this will be like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? Leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable other excellent people just like you to be able to locate this podcast. Please spread the word. It is available wherever you can listen to podcasts. So please pass the word on. I want to talk to you today about wherever you are right now, wherever you find yourself. There may be a serious need for renewal, and especially renewing your mind, renewing your heart, renewing your effort. A lot of things have had to come to a screeching halt during these last few weeks, months, and almost now a better part of a year, as we've been involved in a worldwide pandemic that has just about changed the way that everything is done. And so let's look at, rather than just restarting or going other directions, let's look at perhaps the first way to approach all of this going forward is as a renewal movement in all areas of our life. To renew really is to look continually and continuously for ways to improve, to change, perhaps to tweak, and even to innovate. Depending on your personality, and we all have one, and our abilities, there are lots of ways, really a variety of ways in which we can renew. There is a similarity regardless of our talent, where we are in life, what we're doing, is that we should always look for paths for improvement. Even when we go through our own personal crisis or difficulties in our own family or work environment, what would be a path toward some continual improvement? Doesn't mean that it has to be life-altering overnight, even incremental change. How are we going to do this? One way that you can encourage it, my friends, is to begin to try to look at things with new eyes. Oftentimes when I'm involved in an interviewing process where a group of people are interviewing a candidate and they're meeting in a building that the governing board has been in for a long time, that they have gotten used to, it is amazing when they quiz the candidate how much the candidate sees the same things they see, but sees them with new and fresh eyes. If you're used to some situation in life, you don't notice the clutter. You have gotten used to whatever it is, however you get along, however you conduct yourself, and someone has new eyes. So oftentimes, maybe one of the things you could do is employ a secret shopper or someone to come alongside who doesn't have the built-in biases, the expectations, or even the personal relationships that you have with your team, and just ask them to give you an honest appraisal of what they see. Now, for many of us, this is difficult to do because it feels very akin to criticism and negativity. But we need to encourage looking at things with new eyes. Now, we can encourage ourselves to look at our life with new eyes, but oftentimes it's easier for a new person to see things with their new eyes and their new perspective. It's our responsibility for those of us that are in leadership positions is that we are the ones who help to shape the expectation for the team as we move forward. That may be your family, it may be your department, it may be your area, it may be the line you work on. It really doesn't matter. But all of us are going to move forward as we create an environment, not only in our own lives, but in the lives of those around us for, hey, what would be a new idea? What is a new way of looking at things? Are we willing to take some tests and do some experiment? You know, by far the majority of innovations that come to any organization is when folks get the freedom to think outside the box, to think in different terms. So as we talk about renewing, there might be some other words that begin with the preface re. It might be a time for you and I, with all that's been going on, to really exercise some re-engagement. Maybe we need to re-engage with a lot of the stakeholders. That what I'm discovering in the time that we're alive right now is most of us are just trying to make it through. We're just trying, and I'm not using the word survive like we're all going to die, but we're just trying to get our organization through the mess we're going through, and then whatever needed changes and lessons learned, we'll do that. The problem is we don't know when we're going to get through, and what I think we have all discovered, that getting through something, we never know the exact timeline, and it doesn't mean that everything that we dread about it is going to be gone. So we need to re-engage right where we are today. Have you asked your family? Have you asked your friends? Have you asked your coworkers? Have you asked your stakeholders, your customers? How can we re-engage? How are you doing? How are you feeling about things? What have been the lessons you have learned? What do you see as some of the non-negotiables that we are more committed to than ever because of what we've gone through? It's time for us to not get to just be focused on in a survival mode, but to really actually begin to re-engage our constituency. I think another re-word is it's time to re-examine. There are a lot of things that many of us, including myself, have held near and dear to our hearts that really weren't as much a part of the core of what we were doing and are doing as we think it is. It is a preference, a way that we like to see things done, a way that we like to walk through and go through things. I think another re-word that we may need to be using in these days is maybe a reintegration in the idea, maybe it's time to reorganize, to reorient ourselves to things, that perhaps we have found some more effective and efficient ways with which to get things done. And it could even lead all the way to reinvention. Perhaps because we were forced into it, we have come up with new, and not just new, but better ways. There may be now more tools in our toolbox than at any time in a long time. And maybe we've decided that there are other and even better and more effective and efficient ways with which to conduct meetings and training. The re-examination is, if you're going to have and try to affect some change and renewal and look with those new eyes, you're going to have to look at everything that surrounds you. I think the situation that we've all just come through has forced us to say we can't just rest on our laurels. Everything is not always going to be as it seems to be. And what more effective ways can we incorporate into what we're doing? I think one of the things that has happened for many of us is we've gotten some new influences, perhaps via podcasts or blogs or even a couple of books that may have been recommended to us by a friend or a colleague. Is we're finding some new influences that we may never have known about had we not gone through this particular little difficult time. So what are some new influences? That has both a positive side and a negative side. There perhaps may be some negative influences because of the situation we find ourselves in, that as soon as we can shake it loose, we don't want to incorporate. So it's probably good to look at both aspects. What are some of the lessons we've learned? What are some of the new voices that we need to hear to, who have been very helpful in allowing us to navigate the uncharted waters we found? Who are some of the new thought leaders that are going to become a part of my influence arsenal? People who I really respect their voice, I respect their body of work and what they have done. And though I had never heard of them or had never read very widely with them or listened to them, they now are going to be some of the new influences that I take with me forward. I think one of the things that will keep any of us from becoming stale, so set in our ways, it's easy when you're younger, you see the older generation or the older I'm not just necessarily talking about chronological age, but those who have been at an organization before us, and they have fallen in love with methodologies and ways of doing things. And when you're young, it's quite easy to criticize that and to put that down. And yet, if we're not careful, that will set in with us. We'll begin to ascertain the ways we like doing things, the things that we think is important. And I've lived long enough now. Those who brought in great change and fussed at the generation at work before them who didn't embrace the change are not as likely now to embrace the change as other folks are beginning to come up behind them and say, hey, I think we have found some more effective ways. So one of the things that finding new voices, listening to people, reading even outside of your comfort zone helps to get your mind cleared of some of the cobwebs. Begin to ask the question, how am I going to move forward? Once in a while, it might just be good for you to change your location. I'm not talking about changing jobs or careers necessarily, but just changing your location. That maybe if you've never been to a coffee shop to kind of think, dream, plan, work, why don't you try that for a couple of hours? Go to a public library. Go to a different room if you're in a large building. Go to a different room. Just do anything. It sort of sends a signal to the physiology of your body that, hey, I'm in a new place. Maybe it's a new day and time to have some new thoughts. Let's just kind of talk about what might be a practical process for renewing our minds and thinking of things differently and looking for new opportunities. Well, I think number one is stop waiting for a miracle to come and change everything and that it will go back to normal. Rarely does anything after a cataclysmic change just go back to the way that it used to be. And oftentimes we're looking for a miracle that's going to come, that's going to disrupt and change, and it's all going to be perfect. And many times, all of us think then that excuses us from not having to be a part of the process. Look within your organization, your family, your small group, whatever it is you're leading right now. And rather than looking from some great person from the outside coming in and giving you all the keys and all the answers, start looking for the answers within your group. Stop believing that you can't control your thoughts. You can control your thoughts. You can't control what's happened to you. You can't control who your parents were. You can't control where you were born. There are just many, many things you can't control. And unfortunately, it seems like there are so many who've just given up and said, well, everything is out of my control. But you can control your thoughts, you can control your actions, and you can even get control of your attitude. If you want to have a renewed mind, you're going to have to start feeding your mind, because whatever you're feeding into your mind becomes a mindset. If you're watching negativity, listening to negativity, then you're going to easily develop a negative mind. And again, it's not everyone's fault, because you can turn the television off, you can turn the radio off, you can turn whatever it is you're listening to, you can change that. And whatever you are the gatekeeper to allowing whatever comes into your mind. Begin to just start working on reaffirming what you really believe, what your goals and values are, and what you hold to be true, and burn that deep into your heart so that for you, that becomes your mindset. Remember, our feelings and our thinking at times are cooperative, but there are times when they are counter each other. That's why you must always be confessing what you believe your values are, what you believe your goals are, why you believe you are where you are, and for that reason. I've already touched on it, but let me mention it one more time. Resist the negative thoughts. If there are people that are always bringing you down, spend a little less time with them. And then find a way to find some positive thoughts. If nothing else, read some positive literature. If you're a person of faith, read the Word of God. Spend time in prayer. Find a positive colleague or mentor that you can spend time with. Don't give your mind to others and allow them to control you. assist yourself by really marinating in some positivity. Celebrate the process. At work, at home, wherever we are, rarely is everything a finished project and a finished product. We're all works in process. And I am one who probably early in my life was not as in love with the process, but I have learned to love, appreciate, if you have a good process, if it's really constructed well, if you really prayerfully work your way through it, just celebrate the process. You may not be to the completion, to where everything's been done, but celebrate that I'm going in the right direction. Expect, if you do your work, there'll be some what appear to be miracles along the way. And make sure that you just trust God, you trust the work you're putting in, and you're going to believe that good things are happening. We need leaders all across the world who will allow their minds, their hearts, and every aspect of their being to be renewed. You can learn new things. We can be exposed to new truth. We can find new ways to do it. Quit saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I think old dogs learn new tricks better than young dogs do. You're the leader, and if it's going to be, you need to model that it's okay to renew your mind, hold fast to our values, our beliefs, our goals, but find the most efficient and effective and most productive ways to get things done. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this has been like a vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable other excellent people just like you to be able to locate this podcast. Remember, my leadership friend, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.